All right, good morning everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for connecting to our webinar today. We're going to talk about the services that Interwest has provided related to data migration, reporting services as it pertains to government enterprise software. So today we're going to hear from myself. My name is Steve Gay. We're going to hear from Mohammed Ahmed and Hector Martinez, and we're going to each talk about different aspects of data migration, reporting services, and integration, as I just mentioned. So as we get started, I want to give a quick overview of some logistics of today's presentation. First off, if you do have any questions, we'll try to answer those during the webinar today. Feel free to enter those into the chat box in the GoToWebinar. And if we're able to answer those either during or at the end of the presentation, we will. If we're not able to, we'll try to collect those questions and answers and either send you a direct response by email or post them onto our blog, which we'll share the link to that at the end. Also, if you are running into any technical difficulties, try to use the raise your hand function within the webinar, and we'll try to address that. And then one other note, we are recording today's webinar, so at the conclusion we will post that online, and we'll share that link through our blog as well as an email out to those who have RSVP'd. So a little bit about Interwest Consulting Group. We are a contracting agency that provides services to local governments. IT and GIS services we'll talk a lot about today, but beyond IT and GIS, we also provide other business lines such as building and safety, real estate, construction management. Most city government services, we provide support to those areas. The employees at our company have either contracted to local governments or worked directly for local governments throughout most of their career. So we have a very deep understanding of the issues that are faced by local government employees and their mission out to their constituents. And we've tried to take our experience there and translate that into services that will make the lives of government staff easier and improve the services out to your citizens. Our geographic area, we focus a lot on California. We have other clients throughout the western U.S. as well. And we'll talk about a handful of projects for many of those clients that you see listed across the bottom of the slide. So as an overview, I've put together this slide that shows the different components of what we're going to talk about today. So as I mentioned, we're going to focus on enterprise software. And at the simple level, we're talking about getting data into enterprise software and getting data out of enterprise software. And that translates into a variety of different ways. So we'll talk about data from legacy systems. So you might have an older legacy software that is maybe not bringing the most modern features and functions, and as you migrate that into a more modern platform, there's processes that we've gone through for data migration. When you have that new system in place, one of the important components is pre-existing data, for example, land, address, streets, and parcels, and in some cases asset information for work orders. And so we'll talk about the different ways that we've been able to pull that data in from possibly your county assessor, third-party data providers, and in other cases your GIS data. And then other department systems oftentimes will sometimes be standalone, but with enterprise software we can build processes that exchange information both to and from those external systems so that each system is getting the most valuable information to deliver services. And then not just systems getting data out, but to your constituents, whether that's your citizens or your executive management, finding ways to utilize reporting tools that get information out to answer questions or solve challenges that anyone in your city might be experiencing. So I'm going to hand things over to Mohammed to get us started talking about data migration for the city of Eastvale and a system from a legacy system into a modern enterprise software.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everyone. We worked with the City of Eastvale to start the process in migrating them from ELMS, which is a City of Burbank hosted platform, to Acela enterprise system. And City had a very tight deadline in this migration piece. So just a little background. ELMS is an Oracle-based database that is used by the City of Burbank. They started having it. They started giving it out to different cities and charging them for services to be part of their system. Essentially, this is, I think, it's over 7 to 10 years of deployment that City of Burbank has been working on this ELMS system. Initially, when the city was first incorporated, they needed a system up and running in a short deadline. That's why they chose to go with City of Burbank, the ELMS system. Again, it was hosted, so that was one of the key facts for them to go with this new with this ELMS system. Last year, during the renewal process for ELMS, they decided to go away from it, partly because it was pretty archaic, and they weren't able to run certain reports, or they were running into a lot of problems. They went out and figured out which vendor to go with their enterprise systems, and they chose Acela. One of the reasons they chose Acela was because they were already using Springbrook in their financial sector. As far as integration with Acela, Acela bought out Springbrook, so that was one piece that they knew in the long term they both can talk easily between each other. During this time, ELMS was still online until December 31st of last year, so they know they had a 6-month deadline to get everything migrated. Going through the project implementation with the Acela team, they realized that, hey, you know, they have a short timeline to get everything implemented. It might be a good idea to take ELMS data and then migrate over to either a hybrid system or start the process in a migration into Acela. So during this time, they tasked Interwest with creating a hybrid database, essentially a middle ground between the ELMS as well as the Acela system. So in this part, what we did was we extracted all the data out of ELMS, the fields and historical information, and we created a mapping process where we started our own database with the web front end. And what we started using was a SQL backend, so we extracted all the data out of Oracle, put it in a SQL backend, and then we created a web UI, essentially built on Microsoft Visual Studio with a web front end to go through that. Here's a couple of screenshots of the actual hybrid system that we created. Again, this is an on-premise system that we handed off to a City of Eastvale, so it's just running on a box and their own network with SQL in the back end. And it's just mostly for historical information. They're currently running Acela now, so everything they're inputting into Acela, we did migrate some of the historical information into Acela, but this system still is in standalone system, so they can go back and refer to any notes or anything they have. Again, it's an on-prem NTLM system, so the login IDs that they use passes through from their network onto the system as well. Once again, this was built on Microsoft Visual Studio with the backend of Microsoft SQL as well. And then the next slide here, Hector will now go over the Acela migration, the field mapping.
Thank you, Mohammed. Hello, everybody. The current slide shows a list of fields for a report that was created using the Acela ad hoc report tool. The tool allowed users to create reports and documents using predefined views and tables in the following format: HTML, text-based editor. Reports can be exported to Excel, CSV, PDF. On the next slide, we show a list of filters for the same report that pulls records by record type, specific workflow tasks, date range. In this particular example, we're pulling permit records that were issued last month. This is helpful since reports can be created for specific steps during the workflow process for any department. Thank you, and I hand it over to Mohammed for data integration.
Thanks, Hector. One of the examples of data integration is using RIMS to export the data into Crossroads. If you're aware of RIMS, RIMS is a computer-aided dispatch system that a lot of police departments use to run their dispatch. Essentially, it has a reporting functionality as well as database integration piece. The City of Bell actually implemented Crossroads with their traffic division. So they wanted to take the reporting aspect out of RIMS and use it in Crossroads. So what we had to do was get with Crossroads and RIMS to create a certain script that would actually export all the data out of RIMS and bring it into Crossroads for reporting. Crossroads is a traffic reporting software used by many municipalities. The traffic division at Bell wanted to implement this reporting function to better assist them and police department in writing reports for traffic incidents. Crossroads imports data in real time from RIMS. With the help of Crossroads and Sunridge, we were able to establish scripts on both ends that allow the functionality of export and import. This is a real-time extraction that happens since both, actually Crossroads uses a Access backend still, whereas RIMS is a SQL backend. So we just had to create certain scripts with both partners to have real-time data shown from RIMS into the Crossroads database. I'm going to hand back over to Steve. He'll talk about data integration using GIS tools.
All right, thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Hector. As you mentioned, we're going to talk about data integration, and so some of the different ways that we have pulled information into our clients' enterprise software sometimes comes from county assessor files, and in other cases we utilize third-party paid services, and there's different pros and cons to each of those approaches, which I'll talk about in a second. And then there's different methods for getting that information from those providers and the ways that we import that information in, and I'll discuss some of those right here. So one of the most effective ways we've found to get information into enterprise software is to work with your county assessor. Some of the benefits to an approach like that is that the data is oftentimes free, or in some cases at a low cost. And when we're able to get the information working directly with the county assessor, they are oftentimes open to providing data in customized file formats. And I think one of the biggest benefits is that they are open to data correction. So our clients are often very close users of this information, and when they find opportunities or data that needs to be corrected, they can provide that information back to the assessor, and we oftentimes see that corrected data showing up in the subsequent download, either the following week or the following month. In all of these cases, in most of these cases I should say, the data that comes from the county assessor is also used as GIS attributes. So we're frequently downloading that information and establishing it within the city's GIS environment, most of the time within SQL and Esri's SDE. And so the secondary benefit to that is that these processes of capturing the information from the county oftentimes serves a dual purpose. So that data comes in, it lands in GIS, it serves the city's mapping viewing tools, as well as is extracted out of SQL and loaded into the enterprise software. In cases where getting data from the county assessor is, for any number of reasons, not practical, there are third-party data providers. The city of Ukiah, for example, uses ParcelQuest. They've worked very closely with the ParcelQuest to create customized files that are placed into a special location within the ParcelQuest FTP site. And what the city has benefited from this relationship is they're now able to have automatic scheduled downloads of that information. And the big benefit is that this happens daily and automatically, of course. The benefit there is that there's no staff interaction required each day. With that information coming down automatically, we've established email alerts So we get an email alert both when the data is downloaded successfully and loaded into the system, but more importantly, when the data doesn't come down for a number of reasons. We get an email that alerts us to that, and we're able to then proactively connect into the Ukiah platform and investigate the data and the issues that may have caused that. And then we can work those out very quickly, having that advance notice. Another data, third-party data provider is RealQuest, and the City of Rancho Palos Verdes it has selected to use RealQuest data, and they get the data on a monthly basis. Interwest has provided the downloading scripts and the Python scripts that will manipulate the information after it's downloaded. So in these scripts, we've built tools that validate the data to ensure that it's consistent. So it looks at field names and field types, number of records, and then provides errors reports when there is any inconsistencies. This is one of the examples that I think really helps demonstrate one of the overlapping situations of GIS data and enterprise software. In this particular case, the City of Rancho Palos Verdes is in the process of selecting a government platform. And so one of the things that we've found in our experience is that by placing the data in SDE on top of SQL, is that we're able to develop views of that data that are customized for any particular third-party enterprise software. So in this case, once the city makes their final determination of an enterprise platform, we'll be able to use the specifications and the requirements provided by that selected vendor and establish views and then begin to progress the data integration with that selected software. So switching gears a little bit to data coming out of the enterprise software platforms. So talking about reporting services. We think about these in maybe 3 different categories. Built-in reporting engines, so those that are mostly out of the box, built into the platforms. Like semi-automated or semi-customized, if you will. So we find SQL Reports as sort of the in-between built-in software reporting tools. One of the benefits to SQL Reports is that we're able to pull in data from one particular system as well as others simultaneously, so taking advantage of our database views and reporting that information out through SQL Reports. And then in cases where either of the previous platforms are not able to meet the detailed requirements, we have created custom web pages that pull data either from SQL stored procedures or from hosted services. One example is GIS Esri's REST service endpoints. So we'll talk about some examples where we've utilized those in various forms. One example, back to Rancho Palos Verdes, is using active reports. The city has selected GeoCortex as their primary main GIS viewing tool, which includes active reports. So what you see on the screen is a very detailed report that demonstrates crime history over a number of years. And one of the requirements from the city was to find crime trends, and this tool really allowed the city to see both tabular data and charts within the same report views. So we're able to use data customized from SQL in views and stream that into the reporting tools. At the City of Lodi, they're also a GeoCortex customer, but the reporting tools for active reports within GeoCortex didn't quite meet their needs. So in this case, we actually built kind of a hybrid approach to reporting. So what you see on the screen is a custom web page that pulls in basic information from some SQL data services, and that provided a very simple way for the customers to view information on their screen. We're able to deliver hyperlinks, which are simple links to PDF documents stored within the city's network. But then for printing of the same information, we used SQL Reports, which was then we were able to further customize more efficiently PDF reports coming directly out of SQL Reports. For the county of Riverside, they had some very extensive reporting requirements. And in this case, while they were using GeoCortex as their viewing platform, the reporting results basically fully came from customized ASP web pages. Some of the detailed requirements in this case required pulling in data from multiple services. So they needed to pull information from land use databases, from property owner databases, from external land record systems, as well as document imaging systems. So our custom ASP web pages work was put together. Once we were using that platform, it really opened up some extra opportunities. One of those, which I think was really interesting, was embedding images within the actual reports. So some examples of that were taking snippets of maps and embedding them in reports, aerial imagery in the reports, but not just static images, actual interactive images. So in this case, we actually implemented Google Street View imagery, which had the ability to navigate within the image using the Google connection. So that was a good opportunity to really have a very lengthy and detailed report. One of the flip side to that long and detailed lengthy report was how to print it, because our customers needed to print that report. So one of the additional components that we implemented was the ability for the reports to be expanded and collapsed. So we spent some time defining what the categories were that the customer needed when they wanted to expand a certain section based on a particular subject matter within the report and other sections. Another also hybrid style approach for reporting is this Consumnes Service District. They're a park district in Northern California, south of city of Elk Grove, and they use both ArcGIS Online organization platform as well as a hosted SDE through Interwest. And their requirements ranged both from simple viewing for drainage reporting requirements through the state, where we were able to embed images within the report through custom web pages. And this information helped them meet their reporting requirements with the state by exposing both the status, the condition, and images of their drainage infrastructure. The flip side, or another approach requirement that the CSD had, was working with contractors for their sidewalk conditions. They selected various vendors to do sidewalk repairs, and after capturing data with GPS and Esri's collector application, that information was stored into a database and streamed back out to services to the web pages that you see on the right. So first, simple demonstration of summary through their benefit zones, helping them estimate cost by district. But then when the vendor, the sidewalk repair company was completing the work, they were able to utilize the tool shown in the middle to actually edit the information. So we put together the appropriate security credentials that allowed the vendor to connect to this web page and change the status of a particular sidewalk defect from not completed to completed. And this benefited both the contractor and the district because it helped streamline their invoicing to improve both reporting and finance reporting. Finally, reporting services for the city of Eastvale. Hector mentioned earlier Acela ad hoc reporting, and this is another example of an embedded out-of-the-box reporting tool. And the city of Eastvale uses reports from Acela ad hoc for code enforcement, business licenses, building permits, for example. And they receive, or their staff utilizes reports in two different ways. In some cases, they will connect into the ad hoc reporting console directly, which gives them the ability to run previously stored reports, but it gives them a little bit of flexibility on the format that they might extract it to, whether it goes to Excel or to CSV. And some of the more advanced users will utilize that approach. In other cases, Hector has put together the predefined reports, actually stored a hard-coded link that will be then shared into other locations, whether it's within the Acela platform or in some cases our users' desktops. And that gives the customer the ability to really quickly run an updated report with the most recent information with very little understanding or training for how to run those reports. And so we found those two different approaches give our customers both flexibility as well as streamlined ability to run reports depending on what their comfort level is using the software. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. As I mentioned, if there's any questions that you guys have about anything that we've presented today, feel free to send an email to any one of us, and we'll get those questions answered. As a reminder, we are recording today's webinar, so we will, once that's completed, we'll upload that to YouTube, and we'll share the link both to the attendees that RSVP'd, as well as we'll post a link to our blog. So again, thank you to everyone for your participation today, and again, as I said, don't hesitate to reach out and ask any questions. Thank you.